Counter-Strike is not just a game, it's a phenomenon. For years now, it's been the most popular, most widely played online action game of history, really. It's just this incredibly popular, incredibly appealing game that's played all the world over. Now it's finally available for the Xbox, but as you'd expect, it's a little bit different. It doesn't obviously have the benefit of mouse and keyboard controls that you could get on the PC. It's also not free like the PC version. Certainly the fact that Counter-Strike was a free downloadable mod for Valve's incredibly popular 1998 shooter Half-Life helped bring it to the sort of success that it currently enjoys today. It helped ensure that the game had this really large installed base right from the get-go, and it made it so that anyone could just download Counter-Strike and start playing. Despite the fact that the Xbox version of Counter-Strike sports a full price tag, the same as what you'd find on any other new game these days, it doesn't really offer much in the way of new features that you couldn't find still on the free PC version of the game. It does have a rudimentary single-player component and a training mode, but really the core of the game is still pure online play.
Where to?
By and large, the Xbox version of Counter-Strike is just a straight port of the PC game on which it's based. On the one hand, the PC version of Counter-Strike can be considered one of the greatest games of all time. On the other hand, the PC version is free, and it's been available for years now, so when you translate that over to the Xbox, you find something that maybe doesn't quite live up to the standards of other multiplayer games on the system. Then again, Counter-Strike for the Xbox does still boast some of the really fast and arcade-like and highly competitive gameplay that makes Counter-Strike such a big hit, even to this day. Unfortunately, though, the whole game is pretty stripped down and bare bones, so unless you're looking for the pure gameplay itself, and unless you're only interested in the multiplayer action of Counter-Strike, and unless you have a very poor PC that can't properly stream this video, then you're probably better off just playing the PC version instead. Like its PC counterpart, Counter-Strike for the Xbox offers two main modes of play, two different game types, really. These are Demolition and Hostage Rescue. They're basically about the same, actually, because they boil down to two sides, the terrorists and the counter-terrorists, gunning each other down, though there's a different premise for each occasion. In Demolition, the terrorists are trying to drop a bomb at a certain location, whereas the counter-terrorists are trying to stop them. In Hostage Rescue, the CTs are trying to find a group of hostages and escort them to safety, whereas the Ts want to take them out. Gameplay consists of a series of rounds. Rounds last usually about 3 or 4 minutes or so, maybe less, maybe a little bit more, and end when either one side or the other is defeated or when one side or the other accomplishes their objective. At the beginning of each round, you can spend money on new equipment. You can buy various pistols, submachine guns, assault rifles, even light machine guns and various explosives and Kevlar armor, things like that. It's all based on real-world equipment, though there are none of the actual real-world names for the items. Money is earned during the course of a round, either from killing opponents or from accomplishing your team's objectives. In practice, you'll usually have a good bit of money to spend, and you'll be able to outfit yourself with a nice submachine gun or something. You could only carry the one primary weapon, and depending on your primary weapon, your role among your team will be pretty clearly defined. For example, if you pack a sniper rifle, you're not going to want to go into close quarters battles. Counter-terrorists win. Counter-Strike has always offered a very well-balanced combination of tactical realism and arcade-like action. On the one hand, you run extremely fast in this game. It's really got the feel of a pure run-and-gun shooter. As well, there's realistic damage here, so you can't survive more than a couple of hits if you're lucky and even if you're wearing full armor. Also, your fire will be highly inaccurate if you're running or jumping while shooting. The result of the very fast pace and the general sense of realism is that this is a game where you'll naturally want to stick with your team. If you attempt any kind of heroics that you might try in other first-person shooters, you're just going to get yourself killed. For example, if you go up against, maybe more than a couple of opponents at a time, they're going to smoke you and you're going to be sitting out the rest of the round. That's actually one of Counter-Strike's great innovations. It's something that a lot of other tactical shooters have since copied. But what happens in this game is, during one of these several-minute rounds, if you die, you don't just respawn, you're out for the rest of the round. This gives you some incentive to not get killed. Again, it also encourages you to stick with your team and focus on your objectives and to really try to sneak up on your opponents and take them out quickly. The game basically controls well on the Xbox. There's some subtle touches that help alleviate the lack of mouse and keyboard controls and help compensate for the fact that you're using less accurate analog sticks to do your aiming and shooting here. For example, if you press in on the left analog stick, you can make your character turn around more quickly. So if you're being fired upon from the flank, there's a chance that you could turn around and return fire before getting killed. Also, weapon switching is handled very easily, and the whole purchasing of new equipment is handled quite well via a radial menu at the beginning of each round. You typically only have a couple of seconds to buy what you need, but that's enough here. All there really is to Counter-Strike is this core gameplay. The single-player mode of the game is just a bot match where computer-controlled opponents replace the human players that you'd find on Xbox Live. There's no structure at all to this mode. There's no progression of levels. You just pick your map and the difficulty of the bots, and you're off. And you can play for as long as you like and stop playing at any time. The skill level of the bots determines their accuracy and their speed, but it doesn't really make them that much more intelligent at higher levels. You'll still see them do completely bizarre things from time to time, so at best, the single-player mode of Counter-Strike serves as good practice and a good shooting range, but really it's just a primer for playing the game online. It's easy to set up or get into a match using Xbox Live. There's also a system link option if you happen to have a bunch of Xboxes and TVs lying around. You can only set up a 10-player match if you want to compete in it, or you can make your Xbox serve as a dedicated server for up to 16 players, but that means you yourself can't play. At any rate, the online action is certainly reminiscent of the PC version of Counter-Strike. The action can be highly addictive, and the fast pacing of the combat and the short length of the rounds mean that you could easily find yourself sitting in front of this game for many hours at a time and practicing and getting better and better. The presence of voice chat adds a lot to the game. Actually, voice chat has been present in the PC version of Counter-Strike for some time too, but it's a more standard feature on Xbox Live, and it certainly helps you coordinate your team's efforts.
The
gameplay of Counter-Strike has certainly stood the test of time, but the game's graphics really don't hold up so well on the Xbox, even though they've been touched up. Some of the new maps and the new textures and player models look okay, but really this game looks decent at best. There's some really kind of jerky death animations and some other kind of goofy looking things that happen in the game, so it's really not up to the level that you'd expect from other high-profile Xbox games, though it is serviceable. Also, it's a real testament to the sound of Counter-Strike that it holds up so well over the years. The audio was put together by the game's two amateur developers way back when, and it's still the same sound being used in the game to this day. It serves the game well, but again, you might have expected the developers to take the extra time to kind of spruce it up for this new platform. On the whole, Counter-Strike just feels pretty stripped down to the point where if you've never experienced this game before, you might have trouble understanding what exactly all the fuss about Counter-Strike was about just from playing this new version. It really plays it very, very safe. The new maps and such are quite good and fit in well with the other maps, but really there's no inherent change or improvement to the gameplay here, and the addition of computer-controlled bots doesn't make the game appreciably better. It just gives you something to shoot at if your DSL connection is down or something like that. So the core gameplay of Counter-Strike for the Xbox is great, and if you're looking for a really fast-paced and bloody online shooter for the Xbox, here you go. Then again, a game as venerable and important as Counter-Strike probably deserved better than this relatively stripped-down port.